YouTube, welcome to Hope for Survival. Thanks for tuning in and checking out this newest video. Appreciate it. And for all you new followers, thanks for checking it out and tuning in as well. Much appreciated. It's been kind of a crazy, chaotic world and nation since I dropped my last video. I think this is video number 186, I believe, right around there. So here we are. Can things get much crazier than what we're seeing? And the answer is yes. I do believe they're going to get even crazier than what we're seeing now. In this video, I wanted to talk to you about the event that occurred in Butler, Pennsylvania on Saturday regarding the attempted assassination of our former president and primary candidate for the Republican Party, President Donald Trump. And I held off purposely in posting a video and commenting on it very much for at least the first 72 hours for multiple reasons. The biggest reason is that typically at the time of an event and shortly thereafter, a lot of the information is skewed, half reported, and the facts are not always accurate due to haste and folks trying to be the first one to get a new point to the topic out on the media. But thanks to attendees at any kind of event now having phones with cameras and access to the internet, information is in abundance, along with many opinions. I titled this video 26 Minutes to Impact, and you'll understand why later in the video. So I want to kind of talk about the event and facts that we need to know and keep in mind for this event and any event of this type. First off, the event was a campaign rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. The VIP was the former president, and I don't know how much time they had in advance that he was going to travel to Butler, PA to do this rally. So typically during a political election, oftentimes the voices for the candidate will post rally locations to those who need to know, i.e. the Secret Service, in advance. But as the campaign gets closer to the election point, the time frame of announcement of locations will get shorter and shorter as candidates look at numbers and decide areas that may be close. They may fit in a new location on very, very short notice. And this makes it very, very difficult for those who have to prep the site in advance of the arrival. Okay. I don't know the time frame of the announcement in advance, but we'll say 24 to 72 hours. Okay, we'll go with that. 72 hours being the max. I can't imagine it was 24 hours this far out, but so the task is that the Secret Service as lead, along with host state, county, and local officials, typically law enforcement, specialized components within law enforcement, maybe K9. Typically, they use military K9 to search the areas, and if they can't get them in time, they will use local K9 to support the team that's doing the prep. These sites are selected. This appeared to be a somewhat, just based on the overhead, semi-rural, maybe outside of a suburban area. There did not seem to be a large populated area in any of the photos around. Maybe it was a large farm that was selected. That's unknown. And the task is that the Secret Service, along with their team, which the numbers that I'm hearing is 30 Secret Service agents, would work the event, and another roughly 90 state and local law enforcement officials. Okay. They also have augmented, typically military EOD, explosive ordnance techs, to come in and work the area. And they'll do a risk assessment of the parameters of the grounds that is going to be within the controlled space. And in that risk assessment, they're going to identify all vulnerabilities of potential access points for threats. This is water lines, culverts, sewer lines, buildings, anything in the area where a threat could potentially place a device to cause bodily harm, to include death, or perpetrators could hide or use a rooftop and things of this nature. And as they go through and they clear these areas, once they're cleared, they're locked down. Okay, they call it purging, and they're purging the entire ground to declare it safe. And any access points, they often will use something like a railroad seal to seal it off, record the numbers, and anyone that would try to gain access through a point, it would break that seal. Okay. And they will use all kinds of technology, the human factor, K9 factor, and technology, searching, looking behind walls, looking under floors, attics, things of that nature. It all depends on what's in the space that they're purging to declare secure. And if you remember, we've often talked about the 5 Ds of security. It applies in this case as well. Okay, so once they have cleared and purged and declared the area secure, nothing gets in that is not supposed to be on the interior of the area up to the point of the event. Okay, and once the area is declared secure, they will have drones with infrared thermal imaging in the air for the 24-hour, 48-hour period, monitoring, as well as technology on the ground and the human factor. Okay, so the attendees will start arriving. All attendees' names are provided in advance, and background checks are conducted on these individuals before they're granted access through the gates. They are searched, limited if nothing can be hand carried in. Often it's campaign signs that are pre-printed and handed to attendees going into the area that they can hold up and flash during the event, but nothing that can be used as any type of a weapon or a threat. And then once the attendees are going to their seats, basically the interior close into where the VP is at, the candidate, to some degree the Secret Service will form a diamond, okay? And anything and everything that's on the inside of that diamond, to include the candidate, they are eyes on watching. That's why they often, once you're in your seat, they don't want you moving around. They want everything in place, and they're monitoring for any kind of suspicious movement. Individuals may be reaching under jackets, hand movements, people who seem non-attentive to the speaker, and they're using the agents on the ground, and they have earpieces. They can communicate back and forth, as well as there's cameras in the area that is also watching for motion and movement. Outside of that diamond, they have all kinds of perimeter security. They have a comms room set up to communicate between all the agents and law enforcement. And typically, they find a location that has the high ground, one or more, for placing snipers for the area. And then they should have drones in the air also monitoring from an advantage point altitude. So historically, you cannot penetrate these layers of security. Okay? Cannot. I repeat, you cannot penetrate these layers of security. Okay? And typically, the vehicle that delivers the candidate and takes the candidate away is parked as close as possible to the platform where the individual is speaking at. Okay? So keep that in mind. Okay? There is an important communication element where communication moves fast, and you can, any location where there is a possible penetration or threat, they can get the word out immediately, all right, and make adjustments or to identify and take the threat down. And this happens fast. Okay, so the shooter, in this case, it was a 20-year-old male who, it appears, lived at home. It is unknown very much about him. It says he's a wretched Republican, which I don't put a lot of merit into that. It's very easy for, in today's world, for sources to manipulate records from afar. So I don't put credence to that. It may or may not be. Honestly, it doesn't matter. The whole point in this rally was how well did the Secret Service, who is in charge, the FBI is responsible providing threat information to the Secret Service on the ground, the lead agent. What information, if any, did they feed to them if there was a local threat? Okay. Now, it has come out that the agents on the ground requested more Secret Service support for this event, and it was denied by a higher up whose name I won't state here. But it's someone in a position of power. Okay. I question, based on the last 6 months of Homeland Security and the FBI coming out repeatedly stating that the threat is currently higher than it's ever been before, that it's off the charts, it's off the radar. There's domestic threats and international threats, and there's threats everywhere you look. You have a party nominee for President of the United States and a former president, being the same person, who is at this rally, and you deny additional security as requested. That's questionable. Okay? Why? Okay? So we have a shooter who somehow penetrates the area, has a ladder, gets on a rooftop. Keep in mind, it's 90 plus degrees outside, and this individual is climbing on a metal or tin roof that's going to be 100 plus degrees, and they're laying on it for over 20 minutes. Okay? It would be to the point of burning your skin even through clothes. So that's kind of a little bit bizarre. It is known that the shooter attended a local shooting range with his father, so the individual has some experience with the weapon of choice. It's stated it was an AR-15, and so we can assume at 400 feet or 150 yards, the individual was fairly proficient. Okay. I know on some podcasts and blogs, there's a lot of people who are conspiratorial, and they're talking about he was a plant or he was sent there. I'm not convinced of that for two reasons. Number one, if this individual was a hired hitman, we'll assume that in this scenario. If he was a hired hitman who was there to deliver a shot to eliminate the candidate, I find it questionable that he was using iron sights and did not have a scope. Even a proficient shooter there to do that deed, I have to question why he didn't have more technology on that weapon. The second reason is that I believe that this is a random lone wolf shooter and not a plant. Is the shooter did not compensate for windage on the shot at that distance, which fortunately was the most likely reason that he was not able to deliver on his task of eliminating the former president. And in photos surrounding the platform where the former president was speaking, you can see a flag blowing in the breeze, and at some points the flag is fully extended out, which means there were wind gusts probably in the range of 10 to 15 miles per hour, which would have an impact on the shot at that distance. Okay. There was apparently no compensation by the shooter for the adjustment to the windage. Okay, and this is probably the single point that saved the president's life. Okay, I know some are saying he turned his head at the right moment and so forth. It's more so there was not an adjustment for the windage when the shots were fired that saved the former president's life. Okay, so the question is, was the shooter 20 years old living at home? Was there an issue within the household? I know when he took the rifle out of the home, the father asked where he was going at 20 years old, and he stated he was going to the firing range. Was there a control mechanism within the home controlling the 20-year-old male? Maybe some unhappiness, something psychological to where the individual was trying to find some form of recognition where his name would always be remembered, even though it's a negative criminal act of his choice. There are past cases of individuals who committed acts for notoriety and to be remembered, okay? Or did the individual possibly stumble online into some internet group where he started following and believing in a cause that they represented? Maybe something that's taking place in the Middle East. I don't know. That part is unknown, so it would be an assumption. Okay. So, looking at the event and the facts that we know, from the time the individual was first spotted on the roof till the elimination of the shooter, it was roughly 26 minutes. At a rally of this magnitude with the presidential candidate and a former president, how does a human threat with a weapon go unstopped for 26 minutes? Why was the former president not immediately rushed off the stage into his vehicle and removed from the scene of the threat? Okay. I've heard recent reports that there were some Secret Service agents who were loyal to the former president and they were removed off the task at the last minute and replaced with other agents. It is questionable as to, I believe there were 2 Secret Service agents assigned close in that rushed to the stage who were a bit shorter in height than the former president, which is a no-go. They need to be as tall or taller than him, so when they stand around him and shield him, he is totally enclosed by agents. Okay. Also, they keep a tactical ballistic blanket close by that they can blanket over a candidate, and this didn't happen. Okay. I know sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, but at the magnitude of this being the former president and leading candidate for the presidency, where was it and why did it not happen? Okay. So another question is, why were there snipers not assigned to the water tower near the area that would have given them a higher advantage point over the entire grounds, where they would have noticed anyone on a rooftop or moving in and around the areas had there been multiple threats or multiple shooters? They would have had the advantage point. Another question is, why did the sniper hesitate in eliminating the threat, and why did they pause? In these type of events, they have the sole authority to make that decision to eliminate the threat. Okay. um, that we probably will never know. But it's certainly uh, certainly certainly questionable. So there's all kinds of questions that are out there that having a security background my whole life, um, it leads me a bit suspect in believing that a complete risk assessment was conducted of the entire premise to secure it and then apply appropriate security measures, communication capabilities, and threat response capabilities at the time of the event. Whether it was due to lack of manning, which I don't agree, whether it was poor training in advance, that's hard to buy as well. Or someone made a decision simply to just neglect it. Okay, someone needs to answer at the highest level. Um, like the candidate or not, um, Secret Service agents have um, probably one of the most thankless jobs out there. I mean, think about how many hours they stand at a doorway watching a crowd, and at any split second, they have to go from zero to go and put their life on the line to save this candidate. Okay? It is highly stressful, um, but preparation in advance fully enhances their capabilities when the time comes that the candidate is on site. Okay, the better you deploy your 5Ds and use the human, canine, and technology available to you, the higher likelihood of something not occurring is in favor of the Secret Service agents. So time may or may not tell. Something that I heard Sam Andrews talking about on a podcast earlier, Hagman PI. He threw out a theory of what if this event was simply a precursor to another event to take place to eliminate another candidate, and then blame it on the right. Okay, so I don't know, I'm not suggesting it, I'm simply stating that is one theory that's out there. So what I would encourage you is to, again, it is really, really easy to chase the rabbits down the rabbit holes, to so many speculations by individuals like myself who weren't there, and we simply have to go by facts that are reported and understand processes that should have taken place, and it appears they didn't take place, which made this rally ground extremely vulnerable and penetratable. So in fact, the failure happened before the candidate ever showed up. It wasn't when he got there. The vulnerability was wide open, and either neglected, not prepared for, overlooked, or assumed that someone else was doing it. The lead agent on the ground is 100% responsible and accountable that 100% of all risk and vulnerabilities are mitigated completely, and they cannot assume that someone else has responsibility. Okay, they have the responsibility to ensure that A through Z, according to those standard operating procedures, are followed to the point that the candidate has departed the area. Okay, so we'll see. We'll see what comes. I would just encourage you to be careful to stick to the facts of what you witnessed, and we'll see what is to come. Okay, it is really easy. The more time goes on, we've talked about this numerous times over the past months and years. Information, the more and more time passes, information is not factual. There are a lot of assumptions and conspiracies to things, and we have to stay grounded, stick to the facts the best that we can, and go forth. We just got to be safe. If you attend any of these rallies, you just witness what can happen. You got to have a plan in place. Look around before the event starts. If you have to flee, when you get there, you need to determine a place that you can get to protect you and your family, or to get down on the ground and cover up your family with your body the best that you can if you're a male. And you got to be smart, okay? I don't think the craziness is going to let up anytime soon. All right? So you may have noticed I have on a Mega Ultra hat. This was gifted to me yesterday by a Hope for Survival patriot, and I told him when he handed it to me, this is probably the first paraphernalia for any political candidate I've owned in my lifetime. I don't put stickers on my cars, and I typically don't put yard signs out for obvious reasons, especially in the climate we're living today. But in honor of my patriot brother, I wore this hat for him today. It's actually a nice hat. So thank you very much. And if you like this video, please hit like, share it with others. If you have not subscribed, please consider doing so. And stay safe out there. Think before you go and think before you do. Have a plan and a backup plan to everything you're doing. And don't assume it's business as usual. It's definitely not business as usual. All right? So stay safe, be blessed, and always remember to give thanks. Bravo Echo out.